This is Bonnie Rosenthal, and she's a representative of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, New Jersey. Bonnie, thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'll start us off with something very funny as I was arriving today. I do one walk per day. I've been doing that for over 220 days now. And the kid who I babysit for goes to Calderon Music, which I guess is like right around the corner from here. So when I take him, I actually take a walk while he is doing his drums, and I actually walk right past this community center. You guys have a very, very nice neighborhood. And I like smiles, by the way. So if I look towards you, because I do look around. So my name is Bonnie Rosenthal. I live in Randolph, where I grew up. I'm very close to my parents. I do live with my parents still. I have a nephew and niece who live nearby, and I'm very involved with advocacy. I'm an alumni of East Stroudsburg University in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, where I graduated summa cum laude. And I have a Bachelor's of Science in Community Health Education with minors in Psychology and Women's Studies. I do a bunch of different types of professional and volunteer work. I work with a child with special needs at the local temple, hence my being dressed up. They had their 4th grade service this morning. I babysit for children specializing in working with children with special needs. I teach a water rights class and am trained to teach 2 mental health curriculums. I do some secretarial work as well, and my hobbies and interests include the computer. I'm on Facebook. I play Candy Crush, as well as do a lot of emails, spirituality, rainbows, Kermit the Frog, Disney, nonfiction reading, and advocacy for myself and others, as I am a family member of people with mental health issues as well as regular health issues. I'm involved with NAMI as a speaker and DBSA, which is Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, where I had founded a support group. So NAMI has made a commitment to veterans outreach. So we're tracking the following information. Do I have any veterans in the room? Okay. So today I'm going to speak to you as a volunteer with NAMI, New Jersey, the statewide chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We're a nonprofit association made up of people who live with mental health issues, have loved ones with a mental health issue, and interested community members. Through our organization's efforts and the activities of our local affiliates in every county, we provide support, advocacy, fellowship, and education. In addition to the program today that you're about to see, we have specialized programs for K through 12 school faculty, law enforcement personnel, and others. We can always use your help finding and securing presentation opportunities, running the programs, advocating for system change, and more. We welcome members from all walks of life and encourage you to consider joining the organization. Some of the information is being handed out, as well as evaluation forms for the end. I also have some business cards up here as well, and we have a website, very easy, NAMINJ.org. NAMI.org would be the national. So the program I'm about to present is divided into 5 segments: dark days, acceptance, treatment, coping strategies, and successes, hopes, and dreams. For each segment, we're going to hear from some NAMI members via the DVD, and then you'll hear from my experience as well. I would ask that you hold questions till the end, so that we can accomplish what the curriculum is, if you want to call it that. And I will answer any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and...
Do you need the lights off?
It's up to you guys, actually. And it's up to you. Probably we have enough light in here. So I'm going to put on the first one, which is introduction, and we're going to let it go right through dark days, okay? And then I'll pick up from there.
And I live in Pasadena, California. I'm a global nomad. I grew up all over the world.
My name's Robert. I'm 39 years old. I enjoy being outdoors and exercising and hiking and running.
My name's Royal Riddick, and I enjoy having fun with my children and grandchildren.
My name is Cheryl DeHaven, and I like to go to my son's baseball games.
My name is Susie Paisecki, and I enjoy playing guitar.
My name is Heather McGraw. I am a native of the Northern Virginia area, and I am currently working as a waitress at Red Lobster.
My full name is Barry Shaw, and what I like to do is to write poetry. I write poetry, and I like to pray and meditate.
My name is Minnie Lucas, and I'm a mother of one. I've been married for 24 years.
My name is Dr. Suzanne Fogel-Shabilia, and I'm a practicing clinical psychiatrist in Western Pennsylvania. For me, my dark days tend to be primarily the depression, as it is with many people with the diagnosis of bipolar disorder.
My diagnosis is schizophrenia with panic disorder and OCD.
I got my diagnosis in 1999 with major depression with psychiatric features.
My diagnosis is borderline personality disorder, and basically for me that means that I have severe mood swings, extreme mood swings.
My diagnosis is panic disorder with agoraphobia and substance abuse.
I have bipolar disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder.
I've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder, and general anxiety disorder.
When I got the diagnosis of bipolar disorder,
Initially, I was diagnosed in my 30s, I believe it was, with clinical depression and anxiety.
When I was 18 and went into treatment for drugs and alcohol and started getting sober, I started having a lot of anxiety, panic attacks, to where if I was driving somewhere, I would start getting dizzy spells. My heart rate would go really fast. I would feel just afraid all of a sudden.
I would park in the parking lot, telling my wife I was going to work, and then call in sick and wait till she left home and went to work, and then go back home and go to sleep. So I think that was the point where I knew something was wrong.
It just made me want to crawl into bed, crawl under my bed. That's a place I used to spend a lot of time, was either under my bed or in the closet. Someplace where I couldn't feel, think, hear, see, and be totally deprived from any kind of stimuli, because just being out in the world was too intense.
I'm a Korean American adoptee, and when my adoptive mom called me from home to tell me that my birth mother had contacted me by a translated letter, that's when I went to my first full-blown manic episode.
In the morning I would start out high as a kite, and then by evening I would be suicidal. I was self-injuring, I went from job to job, wasting a lot of time just wandering around doing nothing in a daze.
I eventually thought everybody was right. You know, I am a joke, I'm a failure, I'm a loser. What's the point of trying anymore? So I tried to end it by overdosing on the medication I was given to treat my disorder. That was probably one of my darkest days.
I felt worthless. I felt as though I was like an alien in the world that didn't belong. I always thought that the world would be better off if I was dead.
They thought that I was possessed by demons, or that the house was haunted, because I used to see people and I used to hear voices. So they used to have the priest come down and bless the home, and
They try to do the exorcist on me so I can, get those demons out.
Initially, when I went to VA in July of 1993 and asked for help and told them what my concerns were, they told me that the earliest appointment I could get would be January 1994. By the time I got that appointment, I had lost my job. Child Protective Services came and took my daughter away, and I wound up homeless.
I would rather have broken bones. I'd rather have kidney stones I have to pass. I'd rather deliver 15-pound twins, with no anesthesia, than have a bad bout of depression.
Anybody ever delivered twins in here? Does anybody have twins? Okay, learning disability, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, that's what PTSD is, depression, anxiety, previous diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, fibromyalgia, high-functioning autism, sensory integration dysfunction, an orphan genetic disorder, and autoimmune issues. These are all diagnoses and accompanying symptoms that I deal with consistently, some more often than others. This is how my life has been since I was 5 years old, with other things creeping up here or there. So I'll bust the first myth. People with autism do make eye contact. When I'm looking at you, I'm not looking through you. While challenging, I don't consider myself to be a victim. I deal with them, and combating my challenges makes me a better person. However, really, dealing with that much? I struggle significantly sometimes, and at times deciphering the difficulty is impossible. It can be just one thing or a multitude of things combined. It can be difficult at times to put one foot in front of the other. I just want someone to make it better and say, voila, it's all better. Many crises in my life have occurred due to overwhelming situations, depressions, medication crises, not being understood, being stigmatized and or attempts to quote-unquote put me away, and or feelings or experiences where I felt I had failed, including with friendships. All too often, I feel as though I'm doing a lot of good for others, but not getting any peace of mind and body myself. I wonder, do I even belong in this world? I do experience suicidal ideation. I have never had an attempt. And due to my medication sensitivity, my symptoms can be very difficult to treat. And yet what happens? How do the dark days subside? I'm going to go ahead and put the acceptance piece on.
I think the key for my acceptance was to realize that as a person with a mental illness, that I'm a person first. And I know it sounds kind of cheesy or cliche to some people, but really it's the truth.
I think what finally led me to the point where I could accept it was the support of friends and family. For them to say, Heather, you have a problem, but we love you anyway. That made it okay for me to say the same thing to myself.
I really didn't have a clear understanding of what I had until I was actually a resident in psychiatry, and I was working in an ER and had a severe episode at the time. And suddenly I had a patient who had the same symptoms I did. And I realized that I couldn't really deny this. I didn't see what the other patient had. And then it was very obvious that I had the same thing.
Now that I got this diagnosis, I can do something about it, just like I did something about the drug addiction. So acceptance just came right immediately. It's like, yes, that's that. I can do this now.
Another thing that helped me with my acceptance was to learn about famous people with mental illness. That gave me a lot of hope. You know, Michelangelo, Vincent van Gogh, Georgia O'Keeffe, Charles Schultz, Abraham Lincoln.
It's not my fault. It's not my parents' fault. You know, it's an illness that many people deal with, and that I'm not alone. I don't have to deal with it alone, and that I can go out and try to tell my story to help other people. And so that was the turning point for me.
NAMI has helped me by understanding, educating, and also not only me, but my family. If it wasn't the fact that my family has been educated on this and I didn't have the support of my family, I think it would have taken twice as long for me to be in recovery.
As a child, I learned I was extra special due to my disabilities. I knew I was different. I knew I'd have to work harder than others might, but that's who I was. In, I guess, 1994, I received a diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder, and I knew that was inaccurate. And knowing it was inaccurate, it caused me to begin doing research of what I was exactly dealing with. That research was the initial stages of leading towards empowerment of myself. I then received a diagnosis of bipolar 2, which seemed to fit into the category for a short time, and later received the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. When I was diagnosed with that, I was very upset and angry due to the stigma attached, including by mental health providers. Providers are taught were difficult and unable to be cured, so I stigmatized and ditched myself due to the stigma I knew only within moments of being told. Within days, I no longer had trouble with acceptance because I knew the roots that caused the problems and how it impacted me. I didn't do anything wrong, even though it's the second most stigmatized mental illness. Recently, I had actually been undiagnosed by 3 providers, so I was quite surprised, happily surprised by that. With the high-functioning autism, I wasn't surprised by that either, and it made so much sense and was frankly very validating. The fibromyalgia diagnosis is harder for me because it slows me down, and I don't want something slowing me down. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it, kind of is the concept. Thankfully, I have wonderful providers who work with me and not on me. I refuse to allow my diagnosis, whatever they are, to be excuses for what I do or don't do in society. I don't refer to myself as my challenge, so I don't say when referring to somebody else, the autistic kid. No, it's the kid with autism. Okay. Also the realization I know me best when it comes to issues I deal with. I have providers that do help me along the way, but at the end of the day, I know me and my body best. So I don't want to allow anything to basically stop me from being a successful and hardworking person. To me, though, acceptance is also a journey which has no end in sight. I'm going to go ahead and put treatment on.
Being an active partner in my treatment, I think is very important. I used to kind of be very passive and just go to the doctor and whatever they said, I would just keep my mouth shut. But now I read everything I can get my hands on. And I go into the doctor and I say, I read this, what do you think about this?
Well, basically my treatment consists of me seeing my therapist, me seeing my psychiatrist, me taking my meds. That is a 100% must. I learned the hard way that I cannot stop taking them.
In the 14 years since I've been in treatment, I haven't had a medication that I've taken yet that didn't have a side effect. It just goes with the territory as far as I'm concerned.
Even though there are a lot of side effects, I think that it's very important that one takes the medication. For one thing, I'd rather be a little husky and chubby and have a wonderful husband and have a wonderful life than to be skinny and in the hospital.
I had to trust my doctor before I could really let my treatment fully begin, because these are psychotropic medications affecting one of the most important organs in your body. So it was really important, I think, for me to be able to find that doctor that I could trust.
Therapy helped me work through a lot of issues that were going on in my life, but it also helped me in dealing with stress and doing relaxation techniques and things like that to reduce my anxiety. That was a big part of my treatment.
Okay, for me, treatment's been different over many years. For a long time, I was over-medicated and didn't realize it. I believed that doctor was God and knew best. Then I had a lot of things that happened in my life that made me realize that I know me best and must work with that idea accordingly in my treatment. I learned about what blood tests I need done, how they impact my life, and what tests may need to be done as well based upon the treatment I may receive. I do a multimodality approach at all times to treat my various challenges. Again, I only work with people who work with me, not on me. These people are patient. I'm not told that is impossible, you have this reaction even though you may be on a small dose of something. And they understand the anxiety component. So if my doctor prescribed a new medication, let's say on a Friday, and I know I'm going to be busy all day Saturday and Sunday, I can't necessarily take that medication Friday night because if I'm going to have a reaction to it, I have something I have to be doing Saturday and Sunday. But they understand, just because I'm not taking the medication Friday night doesn't mean I'm not severely depressed or severely anxiety. It means that for me, I need to be able to function. Medication. Medication to me at the moment is kind of a funny thing. I do take medication. I don't stop taking the medication. I said I'm extremely medication sensitive. I have a newer medication I'm taking, the smallest, at a regular pharmacy, the smallest strength of the medication is 20 milligrams. I'm taking 5 milligrams. It's compounded by a specialty pharmacy. I like telling people about that. Compounding, by the way, is able to be done with, it doesn't have to just be psychotropic medication. I'm found that I'm best treated with pediatric doses. When I have to take a decongestant for a cold, I'm taking the children's dose. So with that being said, if there's, let's say, a level with a certain medication, my level may not be that level, but it may still work for me. Okay. I also need to understand the impact meds can have on one another. It's called like the synergistic effect. Okay. I do have a slower processing time and slower reaction time. Therefore, medication that slows me down more can have an impact upon my driving skills. So that is something I need to think about as well. I also went through some medication changes, and we found that I ended up having a side effect that like they've never heard of. Like, I know, literally they've never heard of. And it was that my body needed the chemicals. All they could say at the end of the day was once I was off the medication, my body needed the chemicals that the medication was providing. And it just took a really long time to do that. You probably saw by now I do have a hand tremor. I have a hand tremor from one of my medications, although on top of it is from the neurological issues. So I do have the hand tremor and muscle weakness that I can deal with. It's not just from the psychotropic meds, but it's something I need to be aware of. Also understanding medication is not the be-all end-all. I do holistic treatment. I don't do anything without checking with a doctor first. My chiropractors are my saving grace when it comes to pain management. I do energy work. I have a craniosacral therapist who works with me. I do receive massage, Reiki. I exercise 7 days a week, including teaching a class once a week. I have an emotional support animal. He's a 101-gram cockatiel. I also do therapy. I work with therapists who are not black and white with their thinking, as well as have skills in working with people with trauma. They don't judge me, I don't typically, usually I just show people, but I actually have it on today to be able to show you guys more after. This is called an alpha stim. It's an FDA-approved device used for depression, anxiety, insomnia, and this device, which is the upgrade model, is also used for pain. What I use it for is what's called cranial electrical stimulation. So it's stimulating certain nerves which go to the brain. It's working with the brain waves. So I do have it running, so at the end you'll actually be able to see more information as to it. So Patricia Deacon, who's very involved in advocacy, says, think differently about yourself, think differently about your doctors, think differently about medications, go into appointments with a planned agenda, and take charge of the meeting. So these are all things that I go in with for doing my treatment. And to put coping skills on.
For me, free time is dangerous. I need to have a highly structured day. So when I get up in the morning, I have to know exactly what I'm doing pretty much every minute of the day.
My dog is just great company. He's funny, so he makes me laugh. And because one of the side effects of medication is weight gain, and I had that really badly, he gets me out. The dog is also a great coping mechanism because it gives me the responsibility for something else. I don't have to look within inside myself all the time. I have to pay attention to the dog.
Humor is one of my coping skills, and I like to spend a lot of time with family and with my children and grandchildren. Great sources of relaxation.
Going to the gym and working out helps me in my stability and my coping skills. It gets me up out of bed.
In playing guitar, I had actually led worship for my old Bible study for about 4 months, and music creates so many great opportunities for expression and creativity, so that's a great coping skill.
It's been a huge blessing that I've been able to participate in things that are going on in my son's life, like baseball games and skateboarding.
When I'm in church, I get a boost of energy that's unexplainable, so it makes a great deal important to me, that boost.
One of the biggest sources of comfort for me is my dogs. I love my dogs so much. I have 2 Welsh Corgis and Casey and Peaches, and they are just so cute and funny. Even when I'm feeling really bad, they just make me smile. Exercise has been really important for me because it helps to relieve stress, and it also helps to deal with some of the side effects of the medication.
So for me, coping is a work in progress linked directly to my life's journey. So all the treatment strategies I spoke about are also coping skills that I utilize. One of my biggest coping skills is walking. At the end of September, I did 1 walk, and within 4 days, I have now walked, I think, like 230 days. Every single day, regardless of the 23 inches of snow, I was actually out there walking. It's an amazing thing. I had a stomach bug last week, and my walk is usually anywhere from 0.25 miles to 2.5 to 3. I was out there and I walked 0.10, and somebody said, really? Like, you were that sick and you walked? And I'm like, you gotta understand, I'm at like 230 days, so I'm gonna crawl, down the road if I need to. So just going down my list of my coping skills: patches, my bird, routine, work, distraction, humor, my energy work, spirituality, crying we all think of crying as a bad thing. Not so much. Sometimes you just need to get out a good cry. Exercise, being amongst people who have similar challenges, i.e. support groups, pain management, being prepared, having noticed about something if possible, if there's going to be a change or if we're going to do something different, or trying to make sense out of things. This doesn't make sense, so can we figure out a way in my head? Being successful, helping others, being organized, coloring, frustration tolerance. It's difficult, but if I can manage it, that's really one of my good skills. Journaling, do highlights, find the pictures, they actually make them for adults. Communication with my parents when they do go away for a cruise or out of the country. We do have contact. For me, it is necessary to have contact. Sleep, being independent, working hard and trying hard. Music, a lot of music has meanings to their songs, which are very, very cool if you listen to them. Affirmations, scrapbooking, advocacy of many different kinds, helping others learn from me, children, babysitting and or working with kids who have special needs, Candy Crush. No, I don't spend money on it, but I am up to about 2,300. Television at times, friends who understand and don't judge me. Comfort creatures, if anybody has ever seen, everybody's seen the fidget spinners and all? Okay. These are fidget cubes and all, very easy to put in your pocket and play with. Has like, I think 9 or 10 different things. I got mine because people have asked me about it. I got mine for I think $10 at Staples. I had it in my pocket the day of my father's heart attack, and let me tell you, I couldn't spin something, but I had this in my pocket to be playing with. So I'm going to put on the last segment, which is Successes, Hopes, and Dreams.
I define success for myself as enjoying my day-to-day life, enjoying my relationships with people I care about, and feeling as if I have a purpose in life.
Some of my goals have to do with my home-based business. I'd like to see it grow to the point where I can eventually get off of disability.
I lived in this trailer that was, I call it my dingy little trailer. But that was really the best home I ever had because it was mine. I paid to live there by myself. I lived there by myself, and I could take care of myself. And I never knew that I could do that.
I'm just so happy that I'm going to be able to actually complete my PhD. But it'll always be that bachelor's degree. It'll always be that bachelor's degree that's my biggest success.
I went to Elmhurst College and finished my degree in psychology. That was a big achievement for me because I never thought that after my illness that I could accomplish anything again.
I just got a scholarship to Cal Berkeley for the summer program. So I hope to transfer to Cal Berkeley in psychology. And, it seems like a dream, but I think it's attainable if I keep working hard. And a lot of great stuff's happening. So.
I have a great job. I would not give my job up for anything in the world. I help people to help themselves so they can help other people in this tremendous illness. And educating people, I think it's one of the things that I can call a success, that I am out there helping educate people and eliminate the stigma on mental health.
I never in my life thought I would have got married. I never in my life thought I would have had anybody to love me enough to marry me. And when I met her, it was so awesome. I mean, she accepted me, and she fell in love with me, and I fell in love with her, so that's another part of my success too. I mean, she's my greatest success of all. Besides getting up this morning.
Mental illness is not for sissies. It's something that you really have to realize is going to change your life.
One thing that's really important for me in my life today is that it's like the baseball game. the people that I choose in my life today, I want people who are gonna make my team the best team, you know? So it helps me to pick positive people in my life.
And now my mom and my brothers and sisters are a big part of my recovery. They're there for me, and my husband and my son are the most important people in my life.
I will not let this illness defeat me. I will not let it beat me. And my faith taught me that, you know, with the strength of my God that I believe in, that I can do anything and I can survive this illness.
I want to show other people, look, you can have something serious, but you can live a healthy life and you can be in recovery.
These stories demonstrate how some individuals with mental illness experience recovery. Recovery is not only a reality for some, but also a possibility for millions of Americans affected by one of these serious medical illnesses each year.
Say, the children in the room, wow, with them being able to sit here and their parents and grandparents, wow, and all for your children being able to sit here. It's pretty cool. And you guys deserve a pat on the back. And the fact that they don't have the electronics in their hands, it's just like 100 times bonus. So I spoke a little bit about I am a consumer. I don't like the word patient, but for me, I'm a consumer and a family member at the same time. I'm constantly doing advocacy. From day one, from the time I was very little, my parents advocated on my behalf. I was taught to go against others' preconceived notions in order to succeed. My parents were against institutionalizing me when I received the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. And my parents and I fought the system through learning how to advocate. That's not something that has an end, though. Anybody who's living in this country, you know we have to get out there and advocate and do things. So I'm very involved in different ways of helping people. My ability to take my negatives and then help people to try to help themselves so the bad things that happen to me don't happen to others or vice versa. I graduated from college with honors and awards, and yes, I was dealing with mental health issues at the time. I founded a local support group, which is a nonprofit corporation, so we had to do all the legal work, and I was the president for many years as well. We had some major events with over 100 people each event that I had helped to organize. I've been trained in numerous organizations, so I'm able to teach some different mental health curriculums. And I've helped children to succeed working with children who have special needs for their bar bat mitzvah. I think I'm working with child number 10 now, who is shy as all get out. She's really, really little. And she got up there today and read 4 lines of Hebrew by herself. And I nearly started crying because I was just so proud of her. I've created many scrapbooks. Last year I took a home study aquatic exercise association exam. I think it was harder than my college courses, but I passed. And the philosophy that I end with is reach for your own unique rainbow. I get teary-eyed every time I see a rainbow. You see, rainbows are unique and only come once in a while, as I am fully understood as a unique being. Rainbows represent so much more to me, though. Higher levels, spirituality, and a card that my family received from somebody that had a very simple rainbow on the front. And it said, the first time I saw a rainbow was through my tears. So the favorite song that I end with, and no, I'm not going to sing, and he has a direct relation to Kermit the Frog. Does anybody know what song I'm talking about? Rainbow Connection, very good. So the first lines are, why are there so many songs about rainbows? What's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, they're only illusions. Rainbows have nothing to hide. So I basically say that's the essence of my life. So thank you for those people especially who stayed, and for those people who came back in. That means a lot to me personally. We've passed out evaluations and different forms. Who actually was passing them out earlier? You passed them out. Do we have more? We did, yeah. Okay. If you don't mind passing those out, even if you were here for just one segment, if you can write that. These evaluation forms that you're completing help to fund the program. Like, nobody pays to have In Our Own Voice come out in a week. So there's also business cards, In Our Own Voice business cards available. I didn't pass this stuff out because my tremor is just really. I may have pancreatitis right now. So no, I'm not running a fever or contagious, but my tremor is just really bad right now. So rather than get people dizzy and stuff. And I'd like to open it up to the floor. I have the, once we're complete, if you'd like, I've got the Alpha Stim running, so you'll be able to see how that works as well. By the way, as I said, with the Alpha Stim, it is FDA approved. You do need to get a script from your doctor. There is the Alpha Stim Aid, AID, which is what I got mine recently. The aid is, I want to say, $790 or something. It uses ear clips. It does the central electro stimulation only, cranial electro. This is, I'm attached here. This one is the higher end one. Is the Alpha Stim M. It was, the total is $1,295. The reason I ended up with the, the reason I ended up, if you're just treating insomnia, depression, or anxiety, the aid is fine. I ended up with the M because I couldn't tolerate the ear clips, because the clips sit by a nerve that's attached. So a lot of people can, but I couldn't, so I've got, I use the, what they call trodes instead, which is, I don't know, one's here and one's here. And it also, for me, the bonus is it does pain, but I wasn't intending to get the higher end model. Yeah.
First, before I ask my question, I'd like to thank you very much for your incredible presentation.
Thank you.
It was both encouraging and inspirational.
Thank you.
For those of us who are educators, I was wondering if you could share with us how was it for you to navigate the school system as a young child with a mental health condition, and as a college student? You obviously graduated with honors, you did well. But I often wonder how difficult it is for my students who may have mental health issues, and whether I'm really there for them the way I would like to be.
Are you a researcher teacher, or are you?
I'm a professor, I teach at the university, but there are mental health issues there.
Okay.
And if you can respond also for younger grades.
Oh no, I absolutely will. And she's asking about school. How would I succeed as a younger child as well as in college? I was kind of quote unquote pegged before I was pegged. My brother is significantly hyperactive, and there's reports now that say, like, when I was 4 years old, I was taking the neurologist and I was running around her office opening drawers and stuff. Very proud of myself for that. No, I'm kidding. But I started kindergarten, and they saw that I was having learning issues. So I was evaluated at the age of 5. I was diagnosed at the time, we're talking I'm 44, so we're talking at the time, it was 1979. I was diagnosed, you could be either perceptually impaired or neurologically impaired. I was diagnosed neurologically impaired. The following year, I went into a self-contained classroom. I absolutely loved my self-contained classroom. There was a lot of behavior modification going on. If I got stickers daily, and at the end of the week, if I got stickers, I got this and that, and it was very, you had your individual work, and you had your group work, and after you did all that, there was a play area. I loved my classroom. And though I will tell you that in the early 80s, you were considered the retards in the classroom. So I had an IEP every single year, and in 3rd grade I was mainstreamed. Children are not taught, I mean, we don't, a lot of kids are not, we're a lot of in-class support now where the kids used to be in self-contained. Children are not taught at that time acceptance, okay? I was a very hyperactive little kid coming out of being in a self-contained classroom. And I started having social issues immediately. I had social issues before I had social issues. And I ended up getting made fun of a lot, basically from the time I went out of self-contained all the way up to 12th grade. And I kind of say that pretty much I was tortured. And school became everything. Succeeding at school became everything. And every year, I remember as I got older, my parents would say, oh, well, the school said next year's geometry. Oh, well, she did fine with algebra, but she's not going to do okay with geometry. And my parents would say, give her a chance. Let her try. So that's why I say my parents were always fighting the system. So that's how school ended up. I became a really good student because any other part of my life was really difficult for me, between the trauma and I did see I started seeing a therapist when I was in high school. So I think that answers the question. Working with kids with special needs, I completely believe in, you've got to give them a reason to succeed. And you've got to understand if they're kicking and screaming and getting frustrated, there's a reason and all. And we need to figure out what that is. Going to college, when I looked at colleges, I looked for a college that had a special ed program, and would take my IEP and implement it. And that's basically what happened. And then when the mental health issues got worse during college, the people in the special education department kind of took me under their wing, especially when I became a commuter. And they just really cared about me, and I maintained friendships there. I had, what do you call it? Untimed tests I had when I was really depressed and anxious. I had, thank you. Somebody sat with me outside the classroom. I had the sitting with the professors and doing things like one by one, whether in high school or college. And some of that is who I am personality-wise. I was willing to try really hard, and I needed help. And I wasn't afraid to, my freshman year of college, I was pre-nursing, and I walked into the chemistry classroom, and the professor I didn't have a seat available up front, and she told me I wasn't going to have a seat available up front, and she then informed the class that she was the reason that a lot of pre-nursing students failed out of the program. And I left. I ended up liking her a lot, and she ended up liking me. But I left that classroom, and I went to the special ed department, and I said, she refuses to let me sit in the front. Well, that was the last time that was an issue, because the next class, and I mean, there's certain things of knowing. There's, and you know this from being a professor, there's laws in place. Those laws were in place back then. In college, my schedule was determined before anybody else's schedules. So the special ed person sat down with me and said, you're not going to have this professor. This is not going to work. And when I needed to drop a class and all, she was the one who helped with that process. So it was always having somebody kind of by my side, but also, does that answer your question?
Yes, I have a follow-up question. If you were to give an advice to educators or to students, what would it be?
Give advice to,
If you were to advise us, based on my experience, this is what you need to keep in mind and do. What would that be?
We're all unique, and we want to succeed. And if you're getting a kid who doesn't want to succeed, then you've got to take some steps back to figure out why they don't want to succeed. You know? And that's behaviorally or physically or whatever the case. I have parents who, now I will tell you this, and interestingly enough, people say, oh, how depressed are you? You get up, you go to work every day. Well, there wasn't a choice. I was that kid who had to be running a fever or throwing up after 4 a.m. where I was in school. And like back in the 80s, and my favorite story was my mother sent me to school. I was like really sick and I was complaining and everything. Within an hour and a half, she had to pick us up. Me and my brother up because we were running like 103 fever. And I remember looking at her and saying, "Stinks for you." Yeah, did you?
First, I wanted to thank you for coming today, and your presentation was amazing.
Thank you.
And I learned a lot from it. I'm an educator. I teach in Jersey City, actually, but I live here in Springfield. And one of the things you have kind of touched on is just the need for addressing mental health in the classroom. I think in any grade level, and I don't think we prioritize it enough in schools. And I think we dropped the ball, and it's something that I've really been passionate about over the last 5 years and trying to advocate for, because regardless of where you live, it's something that needs to be addressed and needs to be really prioritized in education. I think parents need to make a push for that, because where I work, a lot of kids deal with PTSD because they live in really, really rough circumstances that are completely out of their control. But even in a town like Springfield, you don't know what kids are dealing with or what they've been through, and the fact that schools' budgets don't allow for a lot of what, support services that should be there, I think that's something that all parents should consider advocating for and really fighting for. A lot of teachers I know agree with it as well, and it's something that I think could really improve education in the whole system.
Yeah, I gotta share that with my advocacy and stuff, and this is kind of out there. I believe our whole curriculum is screwed up. And I think we need mental health. I think we need to be teaching children advocacy. What kid do you see coming out of high school who can tell you about the Civil War and has the concept of how that applies now? In my opinion, I was at the March for Our Lives event. I had tears coming down my face. You know what was amazing about that? Is the kids doing, and everybody says it, it's the kids doing stuff. We need to teach our children mental health. We need to teach our children skills to exist in the community and all. And I'm not talking daily, activities of daily living, like, how to do the wash and how to do the things, that you would, I'm talking about the fact of we need to teach the Holocaust. We need to spend time, because talk to a lot of people and all, the Holocaust is just about reoccurring in some ways. I'm not saying, I'm not saying stuff, this is my opinion, not NAMI's and all. I'm just saying we need to think about what we're teaching in reference to what success is having with our kids and all. And I think we all know and all in our heart of hearts that Parkland's not the last. And that here in New Jersey we're this is my opinion, please. I think here in New Jersey we're very lucky, and I think we need to be advocating for children's health. And as I said, this is my opinion, please. If you contact NAMI, you can say, Bonnie said it was her. Yeah.
issues like this all your life, so you have a lot of experience with your own health and wellness. And you sound like you're at a point where you are so educated about yourself that advocacy, even though advocacy is always an uphill battle, it sounds like you are well armed for that battle. How do you think you got there? Because I think a lot of people who struggle with mental illness, A, there's their own stigma and shame, and B, I'm not sure where to go. And C, once I'm there, once I've made that step, I'm so uneducated, I'm just going to trust what people say. How do you think you teach people to get to that point where you want?
Well, my advocacy was, my parents again. My parents were told that I would never read and I would never really function. What I'm told is every step taken to try to get me to read was failing. And then one day something just happened and I just started reading. So my parents taught me the advocacy. Having very strong feelings has taught me some of that. As I said, being part of the March for Our Lives was amazing. In terms of how I got from A to B, I talk about the fact that I was severely overmedicated and medication sensitive. They couldn't figure out what was going on with me. In 2000, at the time of my first psychiatric hospitalization, I was also starting to exhibit physical health issues. Physical health issues were fibromyalgia. They determined the physical health issues were psychiatric. At the time, I was taking 12 medications. They were not all psychotropic. They were gastrointestinal and psychotropic. The GI doctors stated that the psychotropic meds were causing the problem, and vice versa. And I said, I am not going to choose my physical health over my mental health. I shouldn't be dead. I understand people who do. This lady talks about it on the, she deals with these effects or that effect. I kept going, because of the GI issues, I kept becoming toxic on one of my medications. And it got to the point where they were going to say, you gotta be off that medication, but that medication had saved my life previously. So I didn't want to be. So I said to the doctor, how about we do this? How about we alternate? I was taking 900 at the time. How about we alternate? 450, 900, 450. And if it doesn't work, I'll absolutely listen to everything you have to say. And it worked. And that was really what started the realization over, I've had medications where, this is where I talk about when I start a new medication. I had medication once, I started at night, and I was supposed to babysit the next morning, and I couldn't walk the next morning. I was falling into the walls, and because of physical issues. By the way, I went to the doctor that day, and he said, he had me in the back room, and the manufacturer of the medication came in, the pharmaceutical person, he said, keep your mouth shut because that person is from that pharmaceutical. But no, it was just my body. It was just, I had a medication that I was trying to get off of in January. My doctor, I had trouble getting off this, so she put me back on. Then I became very severely depressed, so she put me on a new med. So I was taking that same med and the new med. I was taking the med every other day. I started having major muscle issues. And so then we had to alternate. This med this night, this med this night. And it was like exhausting. I have a to-do list of what medication I was taking what night. And thankfully, I had a doctor who said, okay, I believe you. Let's do this. Thank goodness I have a doctor who said, okay, let's alternate them. Okay, and as I started having effects, okay, let's lower this. And when I was getting off the meds, it was at 10 milligrams. and all. I was cutting pills in half, in quarters, and all. I'm just thankful I have a psychiatrist who thinks outside the box, who is capable of knowing that you can take a 20 milligram pill and get it down to 5 milligrams. You know, who said she's going to, let's see if hopefully she'll do it, try to get my insurance to cover the compounded medication, because that's not necessarily, yeah.
Hi, speaking on medication, I'm somebody who was diagnosed with bipolar at age 18, and I've been in and out of a few psych wards, and that's what's lacking inside psych wards, is you don't have the support of a psychiatrist to listen to what works on your body. You will be put on anything and everything.
In and out.
In and out, and there's nobody to reach out to. You can get violent, you can't call 911, you can be sedated, you have nobody to reach out to, and there's no, I guess what I'm saying is there's no advocacy while you're in the hospital. There isn't. There just isn't.
But have you ever heard the word ombudsman?
I mean, my family tries getting involved, but I've been in hospitals where they have on-site advocates, and they just side with the doctors, they side with the teams, and the things I've seen inside psych wards is nobody has any idea what goes on when those doors close. And sorry, I don't really publicly speak, so
No.
really me. So this is just something that really touches base with me, because the suffering, if you see somebody suffering in the real world, like with the gun violence you're talking about, their idea is to put them in a psych ward. That is not the solution. The psych ward is not the solution to stabilizing somebody, to everyone thinks, get them on the right meds, get them the right help, and you're not gonna get that while putting somebody into, they have long-term psych wards, and if you don't act right in a couple long-term psych wards, there are psychiatric prisons that they send the patients to, and it's just a revolving door. So it's very easy to say, let's get them on medication, but if you don't have the right support, that's where you're going to be. And 1 in 5 people are now diagnosed with a psychiatric condition, and those 1 in 5 people, a lot of them are not leaving the system, and it's really, really awful. I've reached my point where I'm recovering, I'm starting my own businesses, but it's been a long road, and I figured out the techniques that I need to do personally, and I'm a health coach, and a lot of what I personally want to advocate on is not a topic. It's just not. I advocate for nutrition, I advocate for lowering meds, I advocate for treating the entire person and having an entire outlook, and the psychiatric field is sit with a psychiatrist, I'm going to put you on medication, we're not going to figure out gut health when studies show gut health is mental health, nutrition is mental health. Like, there's so many different aspects that society does not even think about, and when there's a shooting, it's immediately you see on Facebook, put them on the right segments. That is not the first step. That should be the second or third step after aligning them with the process of getting to a better state of mind through health, through diet, through lifestyle, and then the medication. And I feel like that's it's lacking. It's very much lacking, and the psychiatric, like the psych wards, is a huge.
I'll see
huge
people come into the support group. Yeah, thank you for what you do.
I know an individual who's blind and deaf, and he's bipolar, another psychotic. He was on 25 medications, one is counted after the other one.
Yeah.
And now he's on no medication. And you have the solution you suggested.
Well, one thing on that
is
is
how did you do that? And he does exercise, nutrition, he does see a therapist, and he does a holistic kind of treatment.
Yeah.
Now, my concern is, I agree that works for him and for you, but what if that may not be the solution for everybody? So there are some other conditions that interact with mental illness, and sometimes medication needs to be integrated with holistic treatment as well. So I think it's good to pay attention to both, but not necessarily go to medication alone.
You need all aspects, you really do.
If everybody can write something down, it's very important. Everybody, especially, there's something called the psychiatric advance directive. Okay, same exact thing as a regular advance directive. You have the opportunity. You gotta do it when you're stable. You have the ability to say, do this, not this, do this, and no. I will tell you, I have not been in the hospital since 2002. I'm not. When I say I'm not a hospital candidate, because they would drug me up something fierce because I would tell them where, what I need and how I need it. And like you're saying, that's not necessarily something that they believe in. The other thing is, talking about it and all, and talking to people in support groups. When I hear somebody come in and they tell me they're on like 3 antipsychotics, I'm like, okay, like, what are they treating? Maybe you need it. And there are people, I'm not a doctor. There are people who may need, all these different meds. But what happens is exactly what you're saying. We're so in trouble insurance-wise. So somebody comes into the hospital who, let's say, is severely manic, psychotically manic, and all. Like they're here, they're like ready. They think they're God and stuff, which can happen. It does happen. And they've got like 3 days. Let me tell you, you're stabling that person as quick as you can, and you're getting them out. And we know it doesn't work. So I'll tell you this, that I try to, for myself, be aware of, if God forbid, where would I want to go, to be able to say to somebody, as I said, for me, I had when I was in the hospital, I had a fight with them over taking my lactate, and I was at the nurse's station arguing with them that lactate is not a medication, it is an enzyme, and they didn't want to hear it.
You're lactose intolerant.
I am lactose intolerant.
I got some in my bag right now.
Yeah, I'm lactose intolerant. It's really easy. But the advocacy, talking about it and all, is
with you talking about the medical health, that's another issue that's lacking in Psych Wards. I have a medical condition that's related to mental health, and it's a certain supplement, and they neglected that, which wasn't, so the whole, it's like everything you're saying is just lacking.
So it's you and I who are doing it. It's you going out. You said you don't usually speak about it.
I want to get there.
Yeah, it's you and I speaking about it. There's a person in Morris County, I think she's the mental health director. Her name is Lori Becker. But I believe there's a person in every county, who serves that.
Yeah, I know we don't have much time. I just want to know, did you have a problem with, you had a particular condition, and they're looking at the DSM and saying, no, you don't have it because it's not here. You don't fit the criteria. Did you have that?
I'm dealing with it right now in terms of the physical health. And I'm in the process of changing doctors, and I'm not running a fever. And some of the workup is coming back saying that I may have pancreatitis. If you look up symptoms of pancreatitis, it shows a fever. Well, I'm not running a fever.
So you can't have pancreatitis.
Yeah, but but yeah.
Literal thinking.
It's, we need people to think outside the box, and we need to find those people, and sometimes finding those people feels like the impossible, and that's where the advocacy comes in of saying, okay, it's not okay, and all. I went to, I have no problem with Summit Medical Group, I think they're a great thing, They're very, very big practice, like humongous practice. That's where I was going. So they did blood work and they did ultrasounds, and they came back and said, well, we don't know what's wrong, we've got to do the endoscopy. I'm like, okay, well, that's all fine and good. I mean, the endoscopy, what, 4 or 5 weeks or something, because they're big. I'm not complaining about them. It is. So I go to a smaller practice. She does blood work. Blood work shows there's a pancreas issue. Yeah, she needs to do an endoscopy. And she said it straight out. I need to do an endoscopy. But we can maybe figure out what's going on before we get there. So it takes somebody to sit. It takes somebody to listen. It takes somebody to take the time. My father. I'll give you an advocacy story. My father had a heart attack in last July, and he was in cardiac, like the ICU cardiac care unit. Tuesday and Wednesday he was supposed to be moved to the step down, and he didn't get moved until very late at night. But they told us he was to go home on Thursday, and they told us he will. There's a medication interaction. The pharmacist will come speak to you before you leave, before you get discharged, and you will have this blood work before you get discharged. So they moved him to the step-down unit that night, like 11 o'clock. Now, the next morning, I got there at about 11 o'clock, and he hadn't seen a nurse yet since the moment he was transferred, which was, like, cracked me up and all. And the nurse comes in the room, and I said, when is the pharmacist coming? Well, there's no pharmacist coming. I said, well, there's an interaction. Well, what interaction is he having? What? But there's an interaction? I said, no. I said, when is the blood work being done? There's no blood work being done. No, there's no blood work and all. So, my parents stayed in the room. I walked out of the room and all. And I went down to the nurse's station, and I stood there for about 10 minutes. And then somebody came and said, what's the matter? And I said, I understand your nurse is saying it's not in the chart, but I'm telling you that the nurses up there said he was having this test done. And that is not our problem. You guys need to, I wasn't nasty about it, but you guys need to look at the fact that upstairs they told us this and you're telling us this. That's not my, and let me tell you, the doctor came in a little while later and did the test. But that's what I'm talking about, the advocacy. It's not just mental health. If your heart of heart tells you, because I knew I was 100% in the right. They didn't necessarily need to do it. And if they said we don't need to do it, that's fine. But that's what we were told. So that's my love, is that. But some people, I didn't do it in my father's hospital room. I know. So sometimes people have trouble with that. Fill out those surveys. I am not talking right now mental health. Fill out those surveys. If you have trouble in an ER, contact somebody and all. Because if you don't do it, who's going to? If anybody wants to come up and see the Alpha Stim thing.
I just wanted to give a wonderful round of applause to Bonnie. I thought this was really special and informative. And we're so fortunate and privileged to have you come, Bonnie. So thank you.
Thank you.
I know, Bonnie, you said you're open for more questions.
I'm open for more questions. If you also want to see the Alpha Stim, please come up now, because I'm going to turn it off because I got it on for
And please, if you have your surveys filled out, please give them. Erica's collecting. Thank you so much for coming to our event. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope to do more in the future.